In a world where the digital age had collapsed, humanity was left to grapple with the weight of forgotten knowledge. The collapse came swiftly and without mercy, wiping out every online record, every cloud-based memory, and every piece of information stored digitally. Libraries, long considered relics of a bygone era, became the last beacons of knowledge, but even they were few and far between, and rumors spoke of one that stood above the rest, the last library. Elena, a young historian, had spent years piecing together the fragmented stories of this mythical place. It was said to be hidden deep within a mountain range, accessible only to those deemed worthy by its ancient guardians. The library was no ordinary building. It was alive, its shelves shifting like a labyrinth, and its walls pulsing with a faint, otherworldly glow. Those who entered were never the same, and not all return. Elena stood at the base of the mountain, her breath visible in the cold air. The path ahead was steep and treacherous, but she felt a pull, a sense of destiny that urged her forward. In her satchel, she carried a worn leather journal filled with maps, notes, and sketches collected over years of research. Each step she took felt heavier, not just from the physical strain, but from the weight of her mission. This was her chance to save what remained of humanity's knowledge, to bring back the light of understanding to a world plunged into ignorance. The climb was grueling. Snow-covered rocks and icy winds battered her as she ascended, but Elena pressed on, driven by the stories of those who had come before her. She thought of her mentor, Professor Alden, who had dedicated his life to preserving history. His dying words still echoed in her mind. Find the library, protect the truth. Hours passed before Elena reached a narrow ledge that overlooked a sheer drop. Beyond it stood a massive stone archway, its surface etched with symbols that seemed to shimmer faintly in the dim light. She approached cautiously, her fingers brushing against the cold stone. The symbols pulsed under her touch, and a low hum resonated through the air. The archway began to glow, and with a deep rumble, the stone door within it slid open, revealing a dark tunnel that seemed to stretch endlessly into the mountain. Elena hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding. This was it. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, the door sliding shut behind her. Darkness enveloped her, broken only by the faint glow of the symbols on the walls. She pulled out a small lantern from her satchel and lit it, the warm light casting long shadows as she moved forward. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, and Elena stopped in awe. The library was unlike anything she had ever imagined. Towering shelves stretched into the darkness above, their contents shifting and rearranging themselves as if alive. Glowing orbs floated gently through the air, illuminating the space with a soft golden light. The floor beneath her feet was smooth and polished, reflecting the faint glow of the orbs. It was beautiful and haunting all at once. "Welcome, seeker," a voice echoed through the chamber, low and resonant. Elena turned quickly, her lantern shaking slightly in her hand. Standing before her was a figure cloaked in dark robes, their face obscured by a hood. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Who are you?" Elena asked, her voice steady despite the unease creeping up her spine. "I am the keeper of the library," the figure replied. "You have ventured far to reach this place. few are deemed worthy to enter. Tell me, why have you come?" Elena straightened her back, meeting the keeper's gaze though she couldn't see their eyes. "I've come to preserve the knowledge of the past," she said firmly. "Our world has lost so much. Without this library, we risk losing everything that makes us human." The keeper was silent for a moment, their presence imposing. Finally, they spoke. "The library does not give its secrets freely. Knowledge is power, and power comes at a cost. Are you prepared to face the trials within?" Elena's grip tightened on her lantern. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Very well," the keeper said, stepping aside. "The library will test your resolve. Proceed, and may you find what you seek." Elena nodded and moved deeper into the library, the shelves shifting around her as if guiding her path. The further she went, the more surreal the environment became. Books floated from one shelf to another, their pages turning as if in conversation. Strange symbols appeared on the walls, glowing briefly before fading away. The air was thick with a sense of magic and mystery. As she turned a corner, Elena found herself in a smaller chamber filled with pedestals. Each pedestal held an open book, its pages glowing faintly. She approached one, her curiosity piqued. The text on the page shifted and rearranged itself as she read, forming words she could understand. "To move forward, one must confront the past," the book read. Before Elena could ponder its meaning, the room around her began to change. The pedestals vanished, and she was no longer in the library. She stood in a small, familiar room, her childhood bedroom. The scent of old books and wooden furniture filled the air. Elena's heart ached as memories flooded back. This was where she had spent countless nights reading by candlelight, dreaming of adventures beyond the small town she had grown up in. But the room wasn't empty. Sitting on the bed was a younger version of herself, no older than 10, clutching a worn book to her chest. "Who are you?" the younger Elena asked, her voice soft and curious. Elena hesitated, the surreal nature of the moment overwhelming her. "I'm you, from the future." The younger Elena tilted her head, studying her older self. "You don't look happy. Did we stop dreaming?" The question hit Elena like a blow. She knelt down, meeting the child's gaze. "No, we never stopped dreaming. But life became harder than we imagined. There were losses, sacrifices, but those dreams, they're what kept us going." The younger Elena nodded, her expression serious. "Then don't forget them. Promise me you won't forget." Tears welled up in Elena's eyes as she nodded. "I promise." The room began to fade, and Elena found herself back in the library, standing before the pedestal. The book's pages had changed. "You have faced the past. The path forward is open," it read. Elena took a deep breath, her resolve stronger than ever. She turned and continued deeper into the labyrinth, ready to face whatever trials awaited her next. Elena moved deeper into the shifting labyrinth, her heart still heavy with the encounter in the first trial. The library had a way of pulling at emotions she thought she had long buried, forcing her to confront truths she hadn't prepared for. The warm glow of floating orbs provided faint light, casting shifting shadows on the walls that made the shelves appear alive. It was as though the library itself was watching her, silently judging her resolve. As she turned another corner, a chill ran down her spine. The air grew colder, and the faint hum of the library's magic was replaced by an eerie silence. She gripped her lantern tightly, its soft glow now feeling insignificant against the growing darkness. Ahead she saw a massive door, its surface covered in intricate carvings that seemed to shift when she tried to focus on them. This door radiated an ominous energy, as though it held something ancient and powerful behind it. Elena hesitated, her pulse quickening. Whatever lay beyond this door would not be easy, but she had no choice. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hand on the door. The carvings pulsed under her touch, and with a low rumble, the door creaked open. A burst of icy air swept past her, carrying with it a faint whisper that sent chills down her spine. The room she stepped into was vast and circular, with walls made of smooth black stone. In the center stood a pedestal holding a single book, its pages glowing faintly. Surrounding the pedestal were 3 large mirrors, their surfaces perfectly reflective. Elena approached cautiously, her steps echoing loudly in the otherwise silent chamber. As she neared the pedestal, the mirrors shimmered, and figures began to form within them. At first, the images were blurry, but soon they solidified, revealing 3 versions of herself. Each reflection looked different, yet familiar. One was younger, perhaps in her early 20s, full of ambition and confidence. The second was older, her face lined with stress and weariness. The third was her as she was now, carrying the weight of her journey but standing tall nonetheless. "What is this?" Elena whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "This is the trial of truth," a deep voice resonated through the chamber. Elena spun around, but no one was there. The voice seemed to come from the very walls of the room. "You must face the 3 versions of yourself and choose which path you will follow. Each choice carries a price. Are you ready to begin?" Elena's throat felt dry, but she nodded. I'm ready." The mirror with the younger version of herself glowed brighter, drawing her attention. The younger Elena stepped forward, her reflection moving as though it were alive. "I am who you were," the younger Elena said, her voice steady and confident. "I represent your dreams, your ambition, and your hope. If you choose me, you will regain the fire and determination you once had. But you will lose the wisdom you've gained through hardship." Elena stared at the reflection, her heart aching. She remembered that version of herself so well, bright-eyed and eager to change the world. But that person had been naive, blind to the sacrifices that ambition demanded. The second mirror glowed, and the older Elena stepped forward. Her face was weary, her shoulders slumped under the weight of unseen burdens. "I am who you could become," she said, her voice heavy with sorrow. "I represent the consequences of every choice you fear. If you choose me, you will gain the wisdom of a lifetime, but you will lose the hope that keeps you moving forward." Elena felt a lump in her throat. The older version of herself looked defeated, as though the world had taken everything from her. Was this the price of knowledge? Was this the future she was heading toward? Finally, the third mirror glowed, and her current self stepped forward. "I am who you are now," the reflection said. "I carry the weight of your past and the uncertainty of your future. If you choose me, you will retain your balance, but you will remain uncertain, unable to move forward with clarity." Elena's mind raced as she processed the choices before her. Each path offered something valuable, but each came with a cost. She thought of her journey so far, of the trials she had faced and the lessons she had learned. She thought of her mentor's words, "Protect the truth." What truth was worth protecting if she lost herself in the process? Taking a deep breath, she stepped toward the third mirror. "I choose who I am now," she said firmly. "I'm not perfect, but I've come this far by trusting myself. I can't abandon that." The reflections in all three mirrors smiled, their expressions warm and approving. The room began to glow softly, and the mirrors dissolved into shimmering light. The voice returned, resonating with a tone of satisfaction. "You have chosen wisely, seeker. The path forward is open to you." The pedestal holding the glowing book rose slightly, and the book opened, its pages turning on their own. Symbols and words danced across the parchment, forming a map that glowed faintly. Elena realized it was a guide to the heart of the library, where the deepest truths were kept. She carefully tore the map from the book and placed it in her satchel. The room began to shift, the black stone walls fading into a corridor lined with shelves. The library was leading her onward, its magic responding to her progress. As she moved through the corridor, the shelves began to hum softly, and the air grew warmer. The weight of her choice still lingered, but Elena felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had chosen herself. Flawed, uncertain, but determined. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready to face it. But as she turned a corner, she felt a sudden presence. She stopped, her lantern flickering slightly. Ahead, a figure emerged from the shadows. It wasn't the keeper this time, but someone else entirely. A man dressed in tattered robes, his face partially obscured by a hood. He held a staff that pulsed with faint light, and his eyes glowed faintly in the dimness. "Who are you?" Elena asked, her voice steady despite the unease prickling at her skin. The man tilted his head, studying her carefully. "Another seeker," he said, his voice low and rough. "But I have been here far longer than you. Tell me, what do you seek in this place?" Elena hesitated. "I seek the truth, the knowledge that can save our world." The man chuckled softly, though there was no warmth in the sound. "The truth is not always what you think it is," he said. "Be careful, seeker. The library gives, but it also takes. Remember that as you move forward." Before Elena could respond, the man turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving her with more questions than answers. She tightened her grip on her lantern and continued onward, the path ahead illuminated by the faint glow of the shelves. The deeper she ventured, the closer she came to the heart of the library, where the final trial awaited her. Elena's footsteps echoed softly as she ventured deeper into the heart of the library. The shelves around her grew taller, almost impossibly so, their tops vanishing into the faint glow of an unseen ceiling. The air here felt heavier, charged with an ancient energy that made every breath feel significant. She glanced at the map she had retrieved, the glowing lines shifting slightly as if adapting to her movements. The library wasn't just guiding her, it was testing her every step. As she moved forward, she couldn't shake the memory of the mysterious man she had encountered. His warning lingered in her mind. The library gives, but it also takes. She wondered what he had meant and whether she too would have to pay a price before this journey ended. But she pushed the thought aside. She had come too far to turn back now. The corridor opened into a massive chamber, unlike anything she had seen before. The space was circular, with a high domed ceiling that seemed to pulse with a soft golden light. In the center of the room stood a large, intricate structure made entirely of books. The books floated and shifted, their spines clicking together in a rhythmic, almost mechanical motion. At the heart of the structure was a single pedestal, glowing with a light so bright that it made Elena squint. She approached cautiously, her lantern casting long shadows that danced along the walls. As she neared the pedestal, the structure of books began to hum, a low, melodic sound that resonated in her chest. The light from the pedestal dimmed slightly, revealing a massive tome resting atop it. The book was ancient, its leather cover cracked and worn, with symbols etched into it that seemed to move and shift as she watched. The Tome of Truth. A voice echoed through the chamber. It wasn't the keeper this time, but something more ethereal, more powerful. You have reached the heart of the library, seeker. Here lies the knowledge you desire, but be warned, the truth is not without consequence. Elena stepped closer, her eyes fixed on the tome. What consequence? She asked, her voice steady despite the unease bubbling within her. Knowledge changes those who seek it, the voice replied. It will demand something of you. Are you prepared to pay the price? Elena hesitated, her mind racing. She thought of the journey she had undertaken, the trials she had faced, and the people she wanted to help. The world outside was crumbling, desperate for answers, for hope. If she turned back now, all her efforts would have been in vain. I am prepared, she said firmly. The hum of the books intensified, and the tome on the pedestal began to glow. Symbols and words floated off its pages, swirling in the air like fireflies. The golden light enveloped Elena, lifting her slightly off the ground as the knowledge of the tome poured into her mind. Visions flashed before her eyes, fragments of history, forgotten truths, and glimpses of possible futures. She saw humanity's greatest achievements and darkest failures, the cycles of progress and destruction that defined existence. It was overwhelming. Elena clutched her head, the sheer weight of the knowledge threatening to crush her. But amidst the chaos, she found clarity. The library wasn't just a repository of knowledge, it was a mirror, reflecting the best and worst of humanity. It showed her what was, what could be, and what must be done. As the vision subsided, the light faded, and Elena found herself back on the ground. The room was quiet now, the hum of the books reduced to a faint whisper. She felt different, stronger, but also burdened. The knowledge she had gained came with an unspoken responsibility. You have seen the truth, the voice said softly. Now you must decide what to do with it. Elena took a deep breath, her mind still reeling from what she had experienced. She turned to leave, clutching the map tightly in her hand. The path back through the library felt shorter, as if the building itself was guiding her out. The shelves parted before her, and the glowing orbs lit her way. When she reached the entrance, she found the keeper waiting for her. Their hood was still drawn, but there was a new energy about them, as if they, too, had felt the shift in the library's power. You have succeeded, the keeper said, their voice tinged with a hint of respect. Few make it this far. Fewer still leave with the courage to use what they have learned. Elena nodded. The knowledge in this place is overwhelming. But it's not just about knowing, it's about acting on it. The keeper inclined their head. Indeed. Go now, seeker. The world awaits your truth. Elena stepped through the archway, the cool mountain air hitting her face like a refreshing wave. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden glow over the landscape. She paused for a moment, looking back at the towering mountain that housed the library. It stood silent and imposing, a guardian of humanity's collective knowledge. As she began her descent, she felt the weight of her journey settle on her shoulders. The knowledge she carried was both a gift and a burden, but she was determined to use it to rebuild, to inspire, and to protect the truths that mattered most. The world might not be ready for everything she had learned, but she would share it, piece by piece, planting seeds of hope and understanding. By the time she reached the base of the mountain, the first stars had begun to appear in the sky. Elena looked up, a faint smile playing on her lips. The journey was far from over, but she was ready for whatever came next. The last library had given her the tools she needed, and now it was her turn to shape the future. And so, with the map in her satchel and the weight of knowledge in her heart, Elena walked forward into the unknown, a beacon of light in a world searching for answers. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next video.